What's going on, guys? Satsuki the Hero here, and today is going to be part 1 of a series of My Hero Academia videos. Yes, I picked up My Hero Academia again. Hopefully it doesn't turn into Mid Hero Academia, or guess what? It's going to get dropped again. Nigga, like, bring that ass here and you get dropped on your head again. Alright? But with these series of videos, what I'm going to do is look at each arc of My Hero Academia and just talk about them. So we are starting at the very beginning. So what I'm going to do is just talk about what I think worked and what I think did not work with this arc. So let's start with the good in the arc. I think this arc did a phenomenal job in fleshing out our 3 main characters, Deku, Bakugo, and All Might. But I'll start with All Might first because I think he shined the most in this arc. I think All Might got a ton of character development in this arc. We see how he's brought up as the #1 hero, how he inspires Deku, and we see that he's as advertised because he takes out the sludge villain in one punch, something that Kamui Woods and Mount Lady could not do. They were rendered effective, and they were pretty good against another villain earlier in the chapter. But almost as quickly as All Might is brought up to be an invincible hero, he is quickly brought back down to earth as we see his injury, we see his skinny form where he looks unimpressive and he looks vulnerable. And from this point on, we learn more and more about All Might. It exposes the many layers to his character, and it breaks him down to the point where we're not looking at him as just a powerhouse hero. To the public, All Might has this grand mystique around him. He could show up in any dangerous situation, and all the worries of the citizens involved would be cured. They would be like, All Might is here, we good. We good, but that's only a portion of the story because we know what's really up with All Might. I love how swiftly All Might was humanized because we seen that as strong as he was, he could still feel the same emotions as normal people. He could still feel anxiety, he could still feel despair, and he could still feel fear. And at first, associating these emotions with the legend of All Might would have seemed asinine given what the general masses know. But the moment we seen that skinny form and we seen that injury, the curtains were open and we realized the truth. It's kind of like how you were a kid and you think adults have everything figured out. They have all the answers. But when you grow up, you realize that these motherfuckers were making things up as they went along. Or a better example, or an easier example, is just finding out that wrestling is fake. The point is, in the same manner that we come to the realization that everything isn't what it seems, we see that we were disillusioned with All Might. And I also think having All Might become a novice teacher was a brilliant idea because we see All Might have to fight the urge to still be this top hero and keep the symbol of peace while also learning and growing to becoming a better teacher. Moving on to the true MC, Deku. Here we have a character who is an ironic underdog because we as readers know he has a hack's power called One for All, which I've heard in recent chapters it got even more overpowered, but we're not going to talk about that, alright? But the characters in My Hero Academia think that Deku is a loser. In a universe where 80% of the world's population has a quirk and it manifests itself as early as age 4, Deku had no quirk until age 15 and it still had to be given to him. So it's no wonder why everyone, including his own mama, thought he had no potential as a hero. And this is where the great dynamic between Deku, All Might, Bakugo, and I'll talk about him later, comes into play. As the story progresses and Horikoshi breaks down All Might, exposing his flaws and his weaknesses as a character, simultaneously we are building up Deku for character progression. We see Deku, because of All Might, become stronger physically and mentally. He does the training on the beach part to become a fit vessel for One for All, and we tangibly see the results of his work because Deku actually builds up muscle. And mentally, All Might assisted Deku by saying the words,
"Young man, you too can become a hero."
Words that escaped the lips of Deku's mother and coming from his all-time idol were the words of encouragement that set him on the path that he currently walks. And from that point on, we see the fragile self-assurance that Deku had slowly mold itself into legit confidence, which segues me into talking about Bakugo. Bakugo's character wasn't expanded on greatly with this arc, but it did plant the seeds and foundation for sure. Because we see Deku become more bold and less timid, this became one of the catalysts for Bakugo to self-reflect on his own character. Bakugo saw his childhood friend, who was projected to be a normie citizen, become way more than that, to the point where Deku had to be looked at as an actual rival. This disillusion was almost the opposite of what happened between All Might and Deku. With those two, Deku expected All Might to be some untouchable god, but turns out All Might is human too. In Bakugo's case, Deku was expected to be a mere stepping stone, but it turns out he's more competition. And we further see Bakugo's arrogance get completely shattered when he sees someone like Todoroki with an also exceptional quirk, and that made him come to the realization that there are other people as talented as himself, or even more talented than himself. So in that respect, we have Deku, who is building himself up to prosperity, while we have Bakugo, who is falling off his high horse back to reality. So that's pretty much it for the pros of the characters. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the quality of the quirks meaning something, but so does experience. We know from seeing the powers in this series, not all quirks are created equally, and I love the fact that Horikoshi doesn't try to bullshit us. Like, he doesn't try to make it seem like if you just work hard, you'll just achieve everything. No, sometimes you just have to be blessed with good powers, good genes, whatever you want to say. We have Bakugo and Todoroki, who are like fucking prodigies, while we have someone like Mineta, who has sticky balls.
You what?
I just like the fact that it's kind of realistic in a way, because sometimes you just have to inherit the right tools if you want to properly elevate yourself in the world. So I appreciate what Horikoshi did with the quirks. But I also like the fact that experience is still a factor, because when you see the villains invade the school, we see some of the kids get scared, and some of them are ineffective against the villains. Some are because they are blessed with good quirks. But we see that nothing really happened as far as the villains being pushed back until the experienced teachers came into play. Two more things that I enjoyed was, first, the traitor plot line. That kept you engaged. That kept you focused on the characters and their relationships with other characters. And the second thing I enjoyed was the no moves being bioengineered, because that set up for no moves being made in future arcs, which, knowing what happened in future arcs, that did happen. Now, allow me to briefly talk about what did not work in this arc for me. The first thing is that characters besides Deku, All Might, Bakugo, Aizawa, and Ida, I'm stretching it here. Besides those characters, no other characters were really expanded on. All right, we barely touched upon Class 8 at all. I mean, they had appearances, they taught, but we really did not get into their characters with this arc. And I know we did in later arcs, but again, I'm just talking about this specific arc, nothing else. Now, let me get into the other thing. Shigaraki, to me, does not have a presence as a villain. To me, he invokes no fear at all other than his quirk. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but a villain like Stain was much more fearsome, and believe me, Stain's quirk isn't all that. I mean, if Stain had Shigaraki's quirk, he would be a much more deadly villain. But it's just the presence and the aura around Stain was much more fearsome than Shigaraki. Shigaraki, to me, just seemed like a kid trying to play a villain. And maybe that was the point. But again, just for me, that did not make me go, oh yeah, this is a villain I'm gonna look forward to. And I want to reiterate, I believe that Horikoshi designed Shigaraki to be this way on purpose. He was supposed to be this wimpy villain, and he was supposed to be built up to be a better villain in the future arcs. And I know that does happen in future arcs, but we're just talking about this arc. And in this arc, he was just like secondary. I was more fearsome of Nomu. I was even more fearsome of the warp teleport guy, whatever his fucking name is, because his quirk was actually deadly and he seemed pretty cool. But Shigaraki, to me, nah, he wasn't it. It seemed to me, even though Shigaraki had this plan out, he was too impulsive to properly follow through with the plan, because when they invaded, All Might wasn't even there. Plus, they didn't know the quirks of all the students. And it was just like, you brought a whole bunch of fodder niggas with you, and you only brought one Nomu. I mean, that was your chance. That was a great opportunity to kill All Might, and he blew it big time. And the last complaint I have is the fact that the Nomu and All Might fight was too short, especially in the manga, all right? Now, in the anime, it was great. It was a great fight, all right? But in the manga, it felt like 6 pages. It was like All Might did the whole body slam. He did the Carolina smash. He did the flurry of punches, 300 punches, and then he did the uppercut, and it seemed like it was it. It seemed like that was it, all right? It felt like, I think it was 1 chapter, in fact, but yeah, the fight with Nomu and All Might was too short. It was still a good fight. It was just like, damn, the shit was over in a flash. But honestly, I think that's all I had to say about this arc. If I had to give it a number rating, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. It did a good job, all right? It could have been better, but it still did a good job. And I think on my first watch of it, because I watched the anime, I didn't read the manga. I think on my first watch of it, I also gave it a 7 out of 10. But if I was reading a manga, my first time around, I would have probably gave it a 6 out of 10. But knowing what I know about My Hero Academia, I think this was a good arc, all right? But guys, that's pretty much it for part 1 of the series of My Hero Academia videos. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. Satsuki the Hero, out. I keep on fucking up when I record this video. I keep on fucking time and time again. Recording this shit, I keep on fucking up. Fucking up. Fucking up for you, baby. For you. Here we have a character. Here we have a character. Here we have a character. Here we have a character who is an who. Ah! Fuck. The fuck was that? Because we see.